It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Sometimes, of course, we find that buyer's agents become like online investor gurus and really explaining where to go and selling courses where to purchase, which could, in my opinion, really affect some strong investor groups going to certain areas and dominating those markets and seeing prices increase.
And that is Nikki de Rijcke in Perth on the Real Estate Breakfast this morning as we launch into another episode with more property information, connecting you to all of the property news and trends throughout Australia every morning, 7 days a week. And you can stream us anytime, anywhere on multiple platforms. And it's a Tuesday, March the 25th. Wow. And a very interesting article over a week ago from PropTrack told us that both Labor and the Coalition have proposed this 2-year ban on foreign purchases of existing homes, aiming to boost housing availability for Australians. However, this is a bit of a major one, with foreign buyers accounting for just 1% of total transactions. Only a third of them involve existing homes, and the impact on supply and affordability is expected to be minimal. Also, nearly half of foreign purchasers are buying new homes, which remain unaffected by the ban. So let's catch up with Nikki de Rijcke right now, and she is a director from JW Residential there in Perth. And good morning to you, Nikki. I hope I got your name right.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. And yes, you had it right there.
What is your, what nationality is that?
Dutch.
Oh, Dutch, right. Bad. I should have known that. And how is JW Residential going for you in 2025? Rock solid?
Very rock solid, actually. We've been very fortunate and very strong throughout 2025 so far. Bit of a slow start to the year, but definitely the market has picked up substantially again for us, especially in the last 4 weeks.
Now, we talked over a week ago about the Perth shrinking housing market and the FOMO effect from last year, which did see buyers snapping up those rundown homes, pushing prices to unprecedented levels. What have you sort of seen as a result, for the start of 2025, given what happened last year with what I just mentioned?
So we've definitely noticed that since about that October time, 2024, that investors started to pull away, and the start of the year was no different. We found that investors were hesitant in investing in the area. Buyers agents, they were not sure if they should still purchase here. So we found the competition a lot less for the medium range properties for sure. With the interest rate reduction that we had recently, we've found that some investors are slightly pulling back into the market, but still not to the demand that we've seen last year.
So would you say that there's signs of a price correction emerging in the market, with some suburbs now tracking lower?
I would say that could definitely be the case. I think there's a lot of uncertainty for a lot of investors, not sure if it's still the right place to invest. What we found is that investors were more nervous before. They were seeing all these prices going up so strong, and the prices being now still very similar to what it was mid to late last year, and the prices haven't increased that much, very steady, that investors are not sure if it's still the right place to go. So it's more than people being nervous about where to invest now and which state to go to.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, when you have a look at the sentiment, because you only need a handful, let's say, of investors saying, well, the market at the moment, not too sure. We already know that there are a number of investors moving into different states, Melbourne in particular, and that kind of just permeates, really. It doesn't take much for that sort of sentiment and a little bit of that nervousness to sort of creep in, which I think is what you're talking about.
Absolutely, yes. And we've got a lot of online platforms on the social media pages where they all talk about where to invest, where not to invest. And as soon as some states or suburbs are mentioned, the investors seem to kind of jump on it and go elsewhere. So it doesn't take much for them to change locations.
Yeah, and I thought that investors danced to their own tune. They were their own person and they didn't necessarily follow the pack, but maybe that's not the case, eh?
I have a feeling they really love the pack, and where the pack goes, they're going.
Yeah, no, that's probably a fair comment. And we talked about the buyer's agent's impact on prices, and a lot of these buyer's agents have pulled out, as we discussed over a week ago. I think that is quite sort of significant. I don't think your average person realises just that sort of net effect of what's happening with those buyer's agents.
Absolutely. And I found it especially a couple of years ago where there was a particular investor gurus where they would specifically say where to go to, and they had a large following. And as soon as 5,500 investors are seeing where to invest, of course, they all jump on the same ship. And if they go elsewhere, then this definitely has a lot of impact on the buyer activity in the markets, or moving away from the markets where we see then a steady pricing correction.
Yes, and, from somebody that is working in the real estate industry, investor gurus, as you just mentioned, they can be a bit of a nightmare because they can undo some of the positive sentiment. And as you say, with large followings and people just following packs, that can dictate just how well a year can progress.
Absolutely. And what you might find is as well, where article has mentioned as well, where if investors see that everyone has moved away, they've made growth, they might decide to sell and take their capital and reinvest elsewhere, where we might see some more stock coming to market purely because they're reinvesting elsewhere.
All right, we're talking to Nikki there in Perth, talking all things the Perth property market, including investor gurus. If you're listening this morning, we'll come back with more after this.
We are more than just a real estate podcast. We cover a multitude of subjects, including property data, current buyer-seller sentiment, and the mood of the market. Follow each week all of the main talking points and know your property.
You've got an interesting take. You said that these particular expandable homes, very adaptable homes for emergency agencies, particularly around emergency accommodation.
Yes, we've got a huge housing crisis in Perth and in WA. There is a lot of people literally beginning to live on the street and in their cars. And I get calls all day, every day from buyers and tenants who have been displaced and they've literally got nowhere to live. And they can't get into the housing market. The prices have gone through the roof. It's quite a difficult situation. So these tiny homes could certainly offer an opportunity for people to get in on a temporary basis. And it's looking like councils are starting to consider this as an option and an opportunity as a temporary relief during this period of time, just to give them, rather than living on the street and rather than living in a car when they've got dogs and children. It's quite sad.
Don't forget to subscribe. We have so many episodes, all designed to help you better understand the constantly evolving and dynamically changing real estate property market.
And it is a Real Estate Tuesday. We are in Perth talking with Nikki and all things Perth property. Yeah, just coming back to the gurus, I wonder what it takes to be one of these investor gurus. Have you got any idea? Because there will be some people listening, Nikki, thinking, how can I become an investor guru? What sort of qualifications do you need?
Look, I'm sure they have qualifications and they have a large following social media where they share a lot of information. Sometimes, of course, we find that buyers agents become like online investor gurus and really explaining where to go and selling courses where to purchase, which could, in my opinion, really affect some strong investor groups going to certain areas and dominating those markets and seeing prices increase.
It's very interesting to be talking about that this morning. Now, Rockingham, multiple suburbs in Rockingham. This is an area that you are in. Tell us a little bit about how this has been going, particularly over the last couple of years for our first-time home buyers.
So the city of Rockingham has multiple suburbs within the city of Rockingham, where we find the coastal suburbs have always been really sought after by the owner-occupiers. We found suburbs like the Coolongup, Hillman, they were less desirable for the owner-occupiers, and we found that a lot of investors over the last couple of years, they found that the prices were very undervalued for being so close to the ocean, so close to the city, and good rental returns. So they were actually snapping up the properties where we would launch a property, and within a day we could have anywhere between 10 to 30 offers on a property because it was, in their opinion, very low valued, whereas the owner occupiers weren't too interested to live in those suburbs.
And what about first-time buyers at the moment? First-home buyers, how busy is that market for you at the moment?
We find that the first home buyers are still very active. However, we find that they're quite nervous because they have noticed over the last couple of years that as soon as they were putting an offer in, they would be outbid, and they're struggling to know what to do. They thought, if I wait a week or if I wait a couple months, I'll be able to purchase, and they were just outpriced out of the market. They have slightly come back again, but we find they're very nervous still.
All right, well, it sounds like you're keeping pretty busy there in Perth and the suburbs that you represent. What would you like to see happen between now and the end of 2025?
I would like for a lot more owner-occupiers to be able to purchase and move into their dream homes. We've noticed that it was very active by the investors purchasing a lot of properties, where now we see that the owner-occupiers are really looking for those beautiful family homes to upsize to, or even the downsizers that have made some equity and are able to move on to the downsizer that they haven't been able to get over the last few years because there was too much competition. So it will be really nice to see so many owner-occupiers to move into the next home.
All right, well, thanks for coming on and making yourself available this morning to talk all things property there in Perth. Good luck in your patch, and thanks for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Navigate the world of real estate like a pro, with expert insights, opinions and trends to up your game and knowledge when buying your next property.
You know, Queenslanders love a barbecue, Craig. That certainly features in our backyard. We've got a nice patio and we've got a nice backyard for the kids to run around, and some nice gardens as well to enjoy the Queensland autumn weather right now.
The reason I ask is because you work in the media. With these media barbecue parties, everybody's out trying to do one another. So competition is there for fantastic outdoor dining and sort of like, look what I've got, maybe better than yours.
Yes, you've definitely got that right. I love our outdoor area too. It's definitely built for entertaining. And I'll actually be really sad to say goodbye to the house. It's been a lovely house for us for the last 10 years, but we just need a little bit more space. So I'm hoping someone falls in love with it the way I did.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.